most important to you and what defines you? I guess my hope is that when you leave, what will be one of the things that defines you is an overwhelming desire to serve and help someone else. Because regardless of the challenges of life with diabetes, there's a sweetness to it, right? Pun intended. You have to have a good sense of humor, for one, but there's a sweetness in the people that we meet, the relationships that we form, and the opportunities that we're given. We're given this really cool opportunity to understand pain in a way that's unique. And because we understand it, we can turn that understanding outward and we can touch and change someone else's life. Maybe that happened for you this weekend. Hopefully, you can go home and make that happen for someone else that you see, that needs the something special that you have inside of you. So, people often say that there's an indefinable or an indescribable quality about leaders. Have you heard people say that? The it factor, right? They have something special. And I, in the next couple of minutes, want to show you what I think that something special tends to be. And I think it's something, actually, that can be found in each one of us. So watch this video to learn a little bit about the indefinable.
Demanding job in management consulting, for a job that was even more demanding, teaching. I went to teach 7th graders math in the New York City public schools. And like any teacher, I made quizzes and tests, I gave out homework assignments. When the work came back, I calculated grades. What struck me was that IQ was not the only difference between my best and my worst students. Some of my strongest performers did not have stratospheric IQ scores. Some of my smartest kids aren't doing so well. And that got me thinking. The kinds of things you need to learn in 7th grade math, sure, they're hard. Ratios, decimals, the area of a parallelogram. But these concepts are not impossible. And I was firmly convinced that every one of my students could learn the material if they worked hard and long enough. After several more years of teaching, I came to the conclusion that what we need in education is a much better understanding of students and learning from a motivational perspective, from a psychological perspective. In education, the one thing we know how to measure best is IQ. But what if doing well in school and in life depends on much more than your ability to learn quickly and easily? So I left the classroom and I went to graduate school to become a psychologist. I started studying kids and adults in all kinds of super challenging settings. And in every study, my question was, who is successful here and why? My research team and I went to West Point Military Academy. We tried to predict which cadets would stay in military training and which would drop out. We went to the National Spelling Bee and tried to predict which children would advance farthest in competition. We studied rookie teachers working in really tough neighborhoods, asking which teachers are still going to be here in teaching by the end of the school year. And of those, who will be the most effective at improving learning outcomes for their students? We partnered with private companies asking which of these salespeople is going to keep their jobs and who's going to earn the most money. In all those very different contexts, one characteristic emerged as a significant predictor of success. And it wasn't social intelligence, it wasn't good looks, physical health, and it wasn't IQ. It was grit. Grit is passion and perseverance for very long-term goals. Grit is having stamina. Grit is sticking with your future. day in, day out, not just for the week, not just for the month, but for years, and working really hard to make that future a reality. Grit is living life like it's a marathon, not a sprint. A few years ago, I started studying grit in the Chicago public schools. I asked thousands of high school juniors to take grit questionnaires, and then waited around more than a year to see who would graduate. Turns out that grittier kids were significantly more likely to graduate, even when I matched them on every characteristic I could measure. Things like family income, standardized achievement test scores, even how safe kids felt when they were at school. So it's not just at West Point or the National Spelling Bee that grit matters, it's also in school, especially for kids at risk for dropping out. To me, the most shocking thing about grit is how little we know, how little science knows about building it. Every day, parents and teachers ask me, how do I build grit in kids? What do I do to teach kids a solid work ethic? How do I keep them motivated for the long run? The honest answer is, I don't know. What I do know is that talent doesn't make you gritty. Our data show very clearly that there are many talented individuals who simply do not follow through on their commitments. In fact, in our data, grit is usually unrelated or even inversely related to measures of talent. So far, the best idea I've heard about building grit in kids is something called growth mindset. This is an idea developed at Stanford University by Carol Dweck, and it is the belief that the ability to learn is not fixed, that it can change with your effort. Dr. Dweck has shown that when kids read and learn about the brain and how it changes and grows in response to challenge, they're much more likely to persevere when they fail because they don't believe that failure is a permanent condition. So growth mindset is a great idea for building grit, but we need more. And that's where I'm going to end my remarks, because that's where we are. That's the work that stands before us. We need to take our best ideas, our strongest intuitions, and we need to test them. We need to measure whether we've been successful, and we have to be willing to fail, to be wrong, to start over again with lessons learned. In other words, we need to be gritty about getting our kids grittier. Thank you.
So that was a talk about education, but do you see why I showed it to you? There are so many common threads that tie between our experience in life with diabetes, our situations of goal setting and looking towards our futures to develop ourselves as leaders and to become the success or the dream fulfilled that we hope for. It's all common in this. That indescribable or indefinable quality, it is grit. So it does have a definition. So when anybody ever says the it factor, right? I want you to think of grit. But I also want you to work at developing that inside of you as it relates to your individual goals and as it relates to your diabetes. You heard that the definition of it was passion and perseverance matched together for a long period of time. That's what we need to survive. So in each one of you is the passion and is the ability to persevere for a long period of time. Do you believe that? That's the big question. And she said that as the growth mindset. Do you believe that you can get there? Do you believe that you can do it? Do you believe that diabetes does not own you? That limitations are not your reality? I hope the answer is yes, because that's what we have tried to show you all weekend. So it doesn't matter how smart you are, it doesn't matter how pretty you are, it doesn't matter how talented you might be. It matters, are you willing to put forth the effort and the work? Are you willing to persevere to get to where it is that you want to go? So I was 19 when I was diagnosed with type 1. I was you. When I was 19, I did not have the grit yet. But it didn't take long for me to realize that there was something that I needed, and it was way bigger than anything that could happen in an education class, in college, and anywhere else. I went through a period of feeling like I was a failure, of feeling completely alone, of not knowing anybody else who lived with type 1. Of course, I was the only one on the planet with this disease. It's how it felt. I wanted to give up. I wanted to end it all. Some of you have been there. You might be there now. Right now, the time we spent together is evidence that you can make it. So okay, it started at 19 for me. And a couple years later, I decided, you know what? It's not okay that people told me that I can't do things just because I have diabetes. You heard that from Jay earlier this morning. It is not okay. It was not okay to be told that I was not going to be smart enough to finish college because I have diabetes. It was not okay to be told that a dream of competition or participation in the Miss America program was completely crazy. It was not okay to hear that I would never be a mother. And so what I decided, although I didn't know how to define it at that time, was that I had to work a little bit every day to accomplish something, to see my life turn into something that I wanted. And that's the secret. People ask me about the secret to success often. I don't believe it's a special formula. It's just the willingness to work a little bit every day to move towards your goal. It's also making a conscious choice to choose happy over choosing sad. So there's a lot of reasons for us to be sad and distraught. But we can choose every day that, you know what, I've got this, and this is a gift. I think Raven thinks that right now. She is the gift of a water bottle. But you have the gift of insulin. You have the gift of a meter. You have the gift of science that has brought us from a time when this was a death sentence to a time when we can be something truly remarkable. I also believe in the grace of God. And that was my secret. So in this room, there is so much potential. And I don't know what you wrote on your papers as your dreams, but I do know that they're achievable. Want to know how I know that? The night before I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, I was in a pageant because I needed to earn $500 to pay my college tuition bill that semester. I know, shudder to think that it was only $500, right? Oh dear. But you know what? My goal was to get an education. I was sick, but I was not gonna give up. And so they named me as the runner-up. I passed out on the stage. I went to the hospital. Found out I had diabetes. They gave me insulin the next day, and I, like Jim, remember Jim's story? I went, what was that? If you'd have given me that 3 days ago, things might have been different. But then I started to develop a goal. And if you think your goals aren't attainable, just remember this evidence of one goal that I had. Remember the videos that you saw of Jim and Bo and Austin, the goals that they had to be a success in the entertainment industry with diabetes. Remember Jay this morning, athleticism. Whoa, that was intense. And people who would just say that he couldn't do it because Nothing can stop you from achieving what you dream of. But the question is, outside of you, then what? I hope your goal has, at least at some point, have something to do with someone else. Because my goal for you is to live a life of service, because that's what makes you truly happy. So you have a community, we've built a bond, we're together. There are thousands and thousands and thousands who are not here, who need someone. Will you be that someone? You got a gift this weekend. Please go home and give that gift to someone else. It might be the version of me at 19 who met a girl who had just had a baby, who said, I did something. You can be something. It was an encounter, like someone you'll meet, or it could be the person that you've met along the way that made a difference to you. So will you go home and give that gift to someone else? So with that, I will say thank you for being a part of something so very special. 6 years ago, this started with maybe 15 people. Today, look around, it's pretty amazing. Next year, we'll be back doing it again. And we hope it's you that's here and a couple of your friends who you've talked into coming to this weekend of all kinds of craziness. It's an emotional roller coaster. It's messy. It's funny. And you leave with a group of friends that you can't now live without. So we love you, and we will see you the next time around.